All right, all right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Wednesday night live stream of the dope. I got a full panel on today, so I'm going to bring everybody in right away. You'll see the names at the bottom as I bring them on too. We have Stephanie and Abby. How you doing?
And Deacon, you should have added his name too.
Oh, I'm how speciesist of me. Speciesist. Messed up. Anyway, and Deacon. Hello, Deacon.
Hi, we're doing good.
Good.
How are you, Matt?
Let's see. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for asking. We also got Mike.
No, you
What's up, Mike?
Hey.
How you doing, buddy?
Good.
Good. Thanks for joining us. First time on the dope. Welcome. We got Donnie.
Hey.
How you doing, Donnie?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm good. And last but never least, we have Gav. Gavin, how you doing, bud?
Happy Trans Day of Visibility. I was being invisible for a moment, and now I'm here.
Absolutely. I'm ordering everybody in order of their names. There we go. So today we are going to talk about a lot of things. First of all, be sure to, if you're watching on Facebook, to like our dope Facebook page, or if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe to our dope YouTube channel. Today we are going to talk a little bit about a lot of the content that has dropped in the past couple weeks. But the bulk of our conversation is going to be about our franchise wars that just started on our Facebook page. You can go in there and vote. The first 4 matches are up right now. But before we get into that, let's talk about just like some of the 8,000 things that have dropped over the last couple weeks, because like everything is dropping right now. What is something that's dropped in the last couple weeks that has you like super hyped? Anybody can go on this one.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
2 episodes in. We have not reviewed it yet. I think we're going to review the first 3 episodes Friday. We'll review the first 3 episodes. 2 episodes in, though. We'll keep it kind of spoiler free-ish. What are our initial thoughts on Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Abby, since you mentioned it, let's hear what you got to say.
I mean, first of all, I really love Sebastian Stan. So I'm really stoked that he's finally got a series that he's like co-headlining along with Anthony Mackie, of course. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I really liked WandaVision, but it definitely felt, especially at the beginning, felt completely different from the traditional like Marvel stuff. And this really feels just like we're like right back in the MCU. And I appreciated the difference with WandaVision, but I do really enjoy being like right back in the feeling of like, yeah, this is absolutely a Marvel thing.
For sure.
Yeah, and I'm really, really enjoying the this look that we're getting at these characters, that we're getting to see more depth than we saw in the movies, and I'm really appreciating that.
Absolutely. Anybody else got thoughts on Falcon and Winter Soldier?
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of that because it's Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan are such little twerps in all their interviews and stuff. So I'm glad that their chemistry is translating to their characters as well. A similar thing that I saw that was a part of the press hype for Falcon and the Winter Soldier is Anthony Mackie did a great interview on Hot Ones, which is just a great interview series.
It's my favorite interview series, actually.
I mean, Sean asks like researched questions, which helps. But Anthony Mackie made a point of saying like the most interesting character in like any piece of fiction is the tertiary character or like the fourth lead, because they're the ones that have to do like the fill in the meat of the story, whereas the hero just goes on the journey. And so it's good seeing that our secondary leads, our third leads are getting starring roles in the MCU, because it just really fleshes out characters that we have grown to appreciate but not spent enough time with yet.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's what this new phase feels like for me, is just like, we're getting all these Disney Plus shows that just give us deep character dives into like the background characters that we like love but don't necessarily know a lot about, and I am like super here for it. Yeah, personally, I liked in 2 episodes. I'm loving Falcon and Winter Soldier a lot more than WandaVision because I had issues with the way WandaVision ended. I did not particularly like the last episode, and the things that I had a problem with in that last episode, I feel like have already been addressed in Falcon and the Winter Soldier in terms of how heroes hold themselves accountable for their actions, and that's something that I really appreciate. Mike, you got any insights on Falcon and Winter Soldier thus far?
Yeah, I really liked it. I wish they had aired the first 2 episodes together, just because it was kind of weird that at the end of the first episode, the 2 characters still haven't been in a scene together. And then, I was talking about this earlier. It was kind of silly and contrived how they got Bucky to join Sam on the mission. But once you accept that, it's just like it was a romp, and yeah, like other people were saying, it's just like it's starting to feel like this would have been the next movie if Endgame hadn't happened. I'm digging it.
Yeah, Donnie, what do you have you watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier yet or no?
No, I have. I am so behind when it comes to MCU. Ever since leaving like the movie industry and like just kind of getting into my own little groove, to be honest, I've completely not avoided it on purpose, but it's just not been like a priority. My priority has been in K-pop, so.
Which you're gonna make me listen to some K-pop, and we're gonna see if you can turn me into a K-pop fan. I'm excited.
That would be a great episode.
Yeah, I'm gonna listen to you. Put me together a playlist, and I'm gonna listen to some K-pop, and then we're gonna talk about it.
Okay,
get it together. We'll see what happens. So yeah, I'm down. What about who has watched the Snyder cut of Justice League?
I've seen it.
Okay, what are your thoughts on the Zack Snyder's Justice League? Is what you're supposed to call it?
I read somewhere that you can cut literally 10% of the film was in slow motion. Maybe more than that. I think it might have been 10. It was either 10% or 25%. I don't remember, but that's all I have to say. Putting myself on the
No, I mean it's true. When you give someone this format and tell them do whatever you want, probably every director would fall into that trap of it feeling a little bloated and heavy. I think everyone agrees that it's better than the theatrical release. There's a lot of expanded character stuff and story arcs that just make a lot more sense, and it was more enjoyable. It's still a little bloated. You could cut a lot from that film.
I mean, if you just are a little bit more conservative with your slow motion, I think you get half an hour. I'm not like being extravagant in that statement. Like, I honestly think you would get back like 20 to 30 minutes of time if you just cut out a lot of the slow motion. I do think it is a far superior cut of the film as opposed to the Whedon version, just by virtue of being the like pure unadulterated vision of a singular person. So it has a POV. It doesn't have like conflicting points of view and whatnot. But for me, what it comes down to is that those are not the versions of the characters that I love. Like, this is a very murderous version of the characters that I grew up reading, and my brain has trouble reconciling that. And if other people like it, that's awesome. But for me, it's just really hard to connect to the portrayal of the characters. So
I think I'm also interested in how media is adapting as we've gone into this quarantine world, and like that definitely applies to Justice League because it was released in a format that was meant for streaming, which might not have always I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, but might not have always been the plan or not for quarantine. And I think this is a step up from what the movie previously was. But I think an ideal version is one that actually went through the process of hitting a cutting room floor and having an editor who was trimming it and releasing it as a theatrical film. Maybe it would be 3 hours or something, but it being so bloated and it being an unfiltered 4.5 hours long, which is just not what Zack Snyder ever intended to release, I think just made it a little bit too self-indulgent and a little bit too stylistically divided, when it could have just been a lot chiller and streamlined and probably better, I think.
No, I would agree with that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Also, it's 4 hours long. It's really long, yo.
Oh my god.
Which some people have compared it to a mini series in that way. It's like, but the problem I have with that is that even if you can binge, 6 episodes of a TV show in one day, each episode has its own arc, its own 3-act structure. Where I am one of many people I know that watch Zack Snyder's Justice League in multiple sittings, because it's like, okay, it's just more and more, and here's another chapter. The same way you would read a book. I mean, Zack literally put chapters in there, so it's like, okay, that's enough for tonight. I'll come back to this later.
That is nice that there are clear stopping points, but then in that case, why not just do it in episodes? You know what I mean? Like, I thought that was weird that he didn't just have an option to just like watch this chapter. Yeah. And for those of you watching, if you have any thoughts on Zack Snyder's Justice League, or Falcon and the Winter Soldier, let us know.
I should add.
Oh yeah.
We're pointing out its flaws. I did think it was a lot of fun, and there were some great moments in there.
It's gorgeous. His visuals are always so cool. It's like looking at like paintings, like living paintings, and which is awesome. I just wish the story was tighter.
Yeah, like the whole fight on Themyscira, I could have watched that if it had just been released as like a webisode by itself, regardless of nothing. Like, that was great.
That was good stuff. Bad Batch. Anybody watch the Bad Batch trailer? I'm super hyped about that. Anybody? I know you watched it, Gavin. I know you watched it, Mike. Any of the ladies, y'all watch it or no?
No, I didn't know it was dropped.
It just dropped yesterday or the day before? I think it was yesterday. It just dropped. Check it out. It's amazing.
Yeah,
if you're a fan of Clone Wars or Rebels, this is the next thing from Dave Filoni, and it's so good.
Okay.
Super excited about that.
And the funny thing I find about that is that, like, a spinoff from Clone Wars, I'm sold. I'll watch the first episode. You sold the ticket, and then like that first, and then it was specifically Bad Batch. Like, I dug those characters from the last season, and then they dropped the first trailer, and it's like, wow, this looks great. And then they dropped the second trailer. It's like, this still looks great, but in different ways. They introduced that new character. It's just like, I am so intrigued by what this show is going to be, and it looks great.
Yeah, Gavin, what you got to say about Bad Batch? I know you got some tasty nuggets.
I've been speculating, I've been theorizing, but not even talking about what I want or hope out of the plot or anything like that. I'm just it's visually stunning. They've stepped up their digital animation, as we saw in season 7 of Clone Wars. I'm excited that we're exploring this specific storytelling era, because like there's been a lot of stuff that happens in between episode 3 and 4, but really seeing how power structures settle and how the whole galaxy settles into a new, authoritarian government, and what sides people fall on, I think should generate some interesting conversation. So yeah, that's really what I'm most excited to see from it.
Yeah. Any other content that's dropped in the past couple weeks that people have like consumed that they have been super hype about? Before we move on to our main topic.
Can I talk about K-pop?
Yeah, talk about K-pop. Come on now, bring it on.
Well, just a few things. So, one thing I will especially say. So, Baekhyun, who is a member of EXO and Super M, just released his like third mini album before enlisting into the Korean Army. So, while that was kind of a surprise, his album is really great. The song is great, but him and his other band member Shenyol will also be in the army, so we won't see like any new stuff from him for the next 2 years. But it was really cool.
Oof.
Yeah, I am not familiar, but put that on the playlist, and I will listen to it.
Oh, believe me, it'll be on there.
Wasn't there a conversation about changing the law in Korea because of BTS? Is that not being extended to other popular K-pop bands as well?
So the Korean Army actually extended it for K-pop males, because all the males go into the army. That when they're 30, they'll be in the army. But Korea actually does their ages a little bit differently, if I'm not mistaken. So even though Baekhyun is now 28, in Korea he's technically 30 for some. I think it's just the way that they kind of like count. I think
Korea starts at 1, if I remember right. Yeah. Instead of at 0.
Mm-hmm, exactly. So he just didn't, I guess, couldn't push back his enlistment any longer. So technically he's 30 in Korea, so he had to enlist. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll have to check that out. Like I said, I'm gonna listen to it. We're gonna do a whole episode where I'm gonna talk about my experience, listening to K-pop. I'm excited about it. I love absorbing music from other other cultures that I'm not that I am not well versed in. So I'm excited.
It'll be a lot of different types of K-pop too, and probably J-hip or K-hip hop in there too. So you'll get a whole listing of it.
Bet. I'm excited. All right, let's get to our main topic, which is the best film franchises. We have a bracket going right now of the best film franchises. So I've been super excited about this. It's been a lot of fun seeing what people think. Has been really cool to see. I'll put up, for the purposes of our conversation about this, real quick, I am going to put up our bracket here. Let me pull that up right now. There we go. And there's the bracket. Nope, that's best DC film. That's the wrong one. That's a future bracket that we're gonna do that I already put together.
Spoilers.
No one look.
Spoilers.
No, you can look. It's like 32 DC films, and it's rated by. So I put the seeding happens by highest box office performance. So Aquaman is actually the #1 seed in the DC film one, which is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
So that one's very
dedicated fans.
Lego Batman all the way. Take it home, Lego Batman.
I think Lego Batman will take that one. I seriously do. I think that Lego Batman is going to go super deep in that, because that's a fantastic movie. Let me pull up the right one real quick. But while I get this ready, let me hear your thoughts about best franchises. Let's start with Abby.
Oh no, why start with me? Oh.
Because why not?
I don't know. I don't know. I like so many things that it's really, really tough. Like I did the 4 that you've got posted, and some of them were a little challenging. And I think we talked about some of the other ones, and I was like, that's impossible. Why would you do that to us? Yeah, Jurassic Park versus Middle Earth. That's cruel.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one. I'm super excited for that one. So the first week we did, so this was dropped yesterday. We did MCU versus Indiana Jones. We did Star Trek versus DCEU, Spider-Man versus Pirates, and Mission Impossible versus the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. So that's exciting. you can vote on that on our Facebook page if anybody wants to vote on that. So, first of all, what are some of your favorite film franchises? Like, let's just talk about that. Like, I would love to hear, like, what are some of the film franchises that you consistently turn up for whenever they drop something? You're gonna be there no matter what. Which I guess kind of relates to like, what are your fandoms? So,
Star Wars.
okay, so Star Wars. Would you say that's
Star
your
Wars,
your kind
absolutely.
of your number one? Is that what you think is gonna, get to the finals on that side of the bracket?
I think so. Star Wars, I've been a fan since I was like 5 years old. I very clearly remember being like 5 or 6 years old. My Halloween costume was the red dress with like the 3-point crown that Padme wears in the Phantom Menace. It's like a brief, like the costume isn't on screen long, but like I wore that costume for like 2 years, like as much as possible before it just like fell apart. I was practically like born to be a Star Wars fan because my dad and mom both absolutely love it. So it's always been a part of my life.
Okay.
So yeah, I think Star Wars will end up being my top. I think Star Wars is my top choice out of everything on here. It'll probably come down to Star Wars and the MCU for me, but I think Star Wars would have to win.
Okay. I like that. Gav, what about you? What, like, I know like what your biggest fandom is on here, but I don't know what like your favorite film franchise on here is.
Yeah, I think my fandoms are pretty well represented right on my desk right here. I'm big into Transformers. I'm big into hi.
So we can see. Yeah.
Here we have my deluxe 6-inch Black Series Boba Fett figure, and then my 3-0 Soundwave. Anyways, yeah, of these film franchises, gosh, I'm having a hard time, separating, my favorites versus what I logically think would win. And I think a big part of this is the fact that, all the franchises here, it was interesting. I was looking at these and I was thinking like, wow, this is such a perfect encapsulation of like my childhood circa 1995 to like 2007 ish. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's such a time capsule. But of course, a lot of these have life that, in history that started way before that. And I think that speaks to the strength of these franchises, that they not only, have persisted as long as they have, but also like take on new meaning with new generations. I think that's really the key here. Yeah. As for who's taking it home, I can't say for certain. There are some real tough competition on both sides of the bracket. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I'm very curious. I'm very curious about it. Donnie, what about you? What are your franchises on here that you see going deep?
Definitely Star Wars. I agree with Star Wars. Star Wars is one of my favorites. I also grew up with Star Wars. I wish I could show my my Darth Revan and my Jedi Knight Revan. I'm
Dropping Revan on us. Come on now.
So I have those. So like I'm super into Star Wars, not just like the movies, but like all of the expanded series and everything like that. I really think the MCU, just based on like working in the movie like industry and how well the MCU did, another top contender. But I also really like Spider-Man.
No, that's Spider-Man. That is simply the Maguire and Garfield era, as well as Spider-Verse. It does not include any of the Tom Holland. Tom Holland is part of the MCU, so that is that set of Spider-Man films. Those get credited to the MCU.
Spider-Verse really makes that one a strong contender, though.
Spider-Verse in particularly, for sure, which I think is by far the best out of all those films.
And the Raimi films. And the Raimi films.
Yeah.
I'll give you Spider-Man 2. I'll give you Spider-Man 2. I don't think Spider-Man 1 holds up very well personally. That's my personal opinion.
Spider-Man 3 is valid simply for the Stan Lee cameo. And I was telling you this earlier. That cameo is the one that's like really stuck with me after all these years. Because it's just like a short little bit where Peter's reading like a billboard or something. And Stan Lee comes up and says, I guess one person can make a difference. And that has just like stuck with me. Like
I
since
love that.
it came out. And so like for that reason, Spider-Man 3 is a valid movie.
That is so
And
valid.
only. We pretend that they didn't try to do Venom.
If WandaVision, if every episode of WandaVision was terrible and they still had the line, what is grief but love persevering, I would say, and that made the entire thing worth it, because like that moment is like a perfect moment for me. So I totally get that. Mike, what about you, buddy?
Man, it's tough. I don't like to play favorites. So something like this is hard for me. I've watched practically every movie in this bracket, so it's hard to compare or contrast. Even just, I like the one-on-one thing of like just focusing in, but even that's like hard. Do you go with your favorite movie versus your favorite movie, or do you average them out? Because even my favorite franchises have, you know, some not great stuff in that. And I love escapism. So I have seen every Fast and Furious movie. I've seen every Mission Impossible movie. Would I call them all great? No, but they're fun, and I've seen them all in the theater. So,
Real talk, I think I'm voting Fast and Furious franchise over the X-Men franchise. I honestly think that is something that I am going to do. And it shocks me that I'm going to do that, but the Fast and Furious franchise is kind of amazing, and I kind of love it. So,
And it won't ever end.
it will never end.
well, I have a big, we're talking about who do we think's going to take it. Man, that all depends on who votes. Because, like, I know one of these matchups, I am very much the minority opinion. The Wizarding World versus Mission Impossible. You might have one vote for Mission Impossible, and that's me.
Actually, I was surprised at the amount of votes we got from Mission Impossible. Let me pull up. I'll pull it up. Keep going.
Well, just I saw a podcast similar to this once, talking about geeky pop culture stuff, and the fan question was like, what's one area of pop culture that each of you is like not really into? And it was interesting to see that like everybody has some sort of blind spot, or just something they didn't get into, or something they just never tried. So for me, that is definitely the Harry Potter films. But the Mission Impossible films, like, I remember seeing the last 3 in the theater, and when it got done, it's just like, that checked all the boxes. That was exactly what I wanted it to be. It's so popcorn, but they're great.
So that one has 40 votes, and Mission Impossible has 30% of those votes. So Mission Impossible is overperforming than what I thought it would do, for sure. So just saying.
We know who to blame for at least part of those votes.
Yeah. But even just looking at this list, I mean, that's the way I view movies. Everyone's different, but it's just like looking at the Pirates movies. Like, those are fun, and the Jurassic Park movies, like, those are fun.
And that's another one that's overperforming. 40% of the vote out of 62 votes have gone to the Pirates franchise over Spider-Man.
No.
So Stephanie, what about you? What do you think about this bracket?
So, unlike I feel like a lot of nerds my age, I really resisted watching these kinds of movies, and I really resisted watching these kinds of movies in my early teens, just out of pure I'm not like other girls spite, which was so dumb of me. So I didn't really get into Harry Potter until 2010s or Star Wars or MCU or anything until I was a teenager or an adult. But one thing I did grow up watching a lot was the Pirates movies. And honestly, when I think about growing up watching them, Pirates is like the only one that I fully embraced. So
did you vote Pirates?
Pirates. I saw all those in theaters growing up.
I voted Pirates too. They're consistently fun.
They are, and even the fourth one, which a lot of people don't like, I really enjoyed just because I was so into Johnny Depp in particular when that movie came out that I was just like, yeah. But like I said, since I've gotten older, I've gotten way more into like the MCU and the Star Wars movies, and seen a few Star Trek ones, and oh, you know what? I grew up watching the Hobbit movies too. Actually, my mom took me to those.
The Hobbit movies.
Yeah, the Lord of the Ring, and they were in the
I know.
theaters when we were little.
So Star Trek is trouncing the DC universe 67 to 33% out of 60 votes. So that one, that's not too surprising because Star Trek has such a huge fandom.
Right.
So that makes me happy. I don't know how much deeper Star Trek will go, but I find that one fascinating. And then Indiana Jones, poor Indiana Jones. So sad he got the 16th seed because it is just getting dunked on by the MCU. 66% to 34% out of 87 votes thus far. The poll goes for the whole week, so you have until
a pretty good fight,
next
though.
Tuesday. It's putting up quite a fight. But I think its age and overt racism is going to take it down in the end. It is not a movie that movie series that particularly holds up well when you look at it through any sort of lens.
I remember Patti LuPone once justified some of her acting choices by saying, enter with a high note, exit with a high note. Indiana Jones entered with a high note, did not exit with a high note.
Yeah.
I'm in the minority that I do enjoy the fourth one, but it's definitely not the high note that Last Crusade was.
Yeah, congratulations on becoming the new host, Donnie. It's really awesome. That's really good.
let me do this. There we go.
Oh.
All right.
Welcome everyone to the dope.
Look. Okay, so Indiana Jones, when he is young, he's in the 30s. It's all about like magic and mysticism and things like that. When you move to like the 50s era, the what was pulp in the 50s is science fiction, so it becomes much more of a sci-fi thing, which is, I think, a really brilliant like choice. I don't know that it was executed as well as it could have been. There were some really weird things in there, but overall, I think it is an enjoyable movie. Just unfortunately, he's so old, is really hard for him to do the action portion, which is such an important part of it. Which now he's even older than that. Now he's like pushing like close to 80 at this point, and he's doing another one. And I don't know how he does the action. Like, you just can't move at that age, you know? I don't know. Just saying. So I think it's pretty obvious what's going to make it to the next rounds on that end of the bracket. So next week we have some interesting ones coming up, but I think there's no way that I can see Jurassic Park taking Middle Earth. There's no way that I can see Twilight taking Star Wars. All right. Fast and Furious versus X-Men, I think, is probably the most interesting matchup on that side of the bracket for the first round. And that's so like, where do people fall on that one? Like I said, like I'm probably voting Fast and Furious on that, even though I love the X-Men more. As a franchise, I feel like Fast and Furious is more consistent than X-Men, which has delivered some real stinkers.
Is Fast and Furious also Fox?
Universal, I believe.
Universal, okay.
Mm-hmm. If it was Fox, then Disney would also own the Fast and the Furious franchise, which would be amazing because that would mean Letty is a Disney princess. So,
Well, it is an interesting question because you mentioned consistency, and it's all like, how do you rank these? You know,
Mhm.
do you go for consistency over your favorite ones? Because it's like some of these are a 10, some of these are a 5, and all of these are a 7. Is that better?
Hmm.
You know, I definitely think like with Crystal Skull, some of these drag it down, but personally, I've seen every X-Men movie, I've seen every Fast and Furious movie, but I'd go X-Men. I like those movies
Interesting.
more.
Gav,
I
what
love
about
that.
you?
Yeah, I love that personal criteria. Did you say Gav or Ab?
Gav.
Okay, thank God. I love that personal criteria have so much to do with how we vote. Like
Mm.
you know, for me, X-Men versus Fast and Furious is as petty and minuscule to me as Sung Kang's cultural impact versus Logan alone. You know, like, and no one can tell me that I have to vote some other way. It's my choice. And will I do it for Sung Kang? I just might. You'll never know because I'm not going to tell you.
You should tell the Sung Kang story you told me earlier because I love it so much.
Do you want me to get into why he was so exciting as well, or
Yes,
just
yes, I'm giving you a single for this.
Okay, oh my gosh, Sung Kang. First of all, prior to Tokyo Drift, there was just like no sexy Koreans hanging around. Also, like especially in like supporting lead role. So having like that man with his like flowing mane, and also the fact that he was the chillest one in all of Tokyo, apparently. Like the most normal person in all of Tokyo, according to that film franchise, just really helped and drove it home. Because I'm not sure if a lot of people watched Tokyo Drift and were like, "Oh yeah, I really love the main character, this like little scrawny white dude who's like way in over his head." And then Sung Kang comes in and is like, "Hey, I can help you. I'm really cool. I also have a nice car and I'm kind of hot." And then suddenly everyone's like, "Whoa, he's the cool guy." And then he dies. And then he dies, but then he comes back in the fourth movie. That is literally Korean Jesus status. He really sent us to like a whole other level. So we were excited about his mere existence. But then I went to this one high school in West LA. And after school, it would be a thing that we would walk into, you know, the little town with the coffee shops and stuff around and get like Pinkberry and frozen yogurt or whatever. But then we learned that the sushi place across the street from this school was owned by none other than Sung Kang. And the way we learned this was because despite being the owner of this restaurant, this high-end restaurant, he would stand out in the middle of the street with a gardening hose watering his his Lexus.
You curse.
Which is just the most Korean thing that you could possibly do. You can be a, movie star and you're still gonna car wash your Lexus with the gardening hose from your restaurant. So that's my Sung Kang story.
Can I tag on to that?
Yes. I don't know how you top it, but go ahead.
Well, I'm not trying to top it. To say, well, speaking of Sung Kang, Gavin, do you know that his character in Tokyo Drift was supposed to be the same as his character in Better Luck Tomorrow?
What?
What?
Because they were both directed by Justin Lin. I forget if they have the same character name, but if you watch Better Luck Tomorrow, he is chain smoking the entire time. So the idea is that in Tokyo Drift, he's given up smoking, but he's so used to that affectation that he just decides to eat all the time, which is why he's like eating chips in every scene.
That's amazing.
I love that bit of trivia.
Dramatic universes are my favorite thing.
Furthermore, Sung Kang has just been announced to be in the new Obi-Wan series for Disney Plus,
That's right.
which means that now it is canon that Better Luck Tomorrow exists in the Star Wars universe. That is amazing. I love it.
Just keeps coming back.
Just keeps coming back. Just keeps coming back. That was wonderful. Anybody else? I'm curious about this now. Everybody else? What are you voting between Fast and Furious and X-Men? If you want to share your vote.
So I'm about to disappoint a lot of y'all and say I can't remember a single plot from any Fast and Furious movie. I've seen them all because my dad loves them. I couldn't tell you what they're about.
They're about driving cars fast. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also family.
Family, familia.
Like 5 times in every Fast and the Furious movie, there's a close up of Vin Diesel talking about the importance of family.
Boy.
Yeah, so for that reason, though, my vote has to go to X-Men. Also, Logan was a masterpiece. And
Yes. Logan may be the best comic book film ever made. I don't know. It's up there. It's definitely like in my top 5 for sure. Oh, such a good movie.
and
We'll have
it's
to do a
really-
bracket about like best comic book film, and that'll
Yes.
definitely make the cut, I think.
But if we did something like that, we'd have to expand beyond just the superhero stuff because Scott Pilgrim versus the World is a really fun one.
My nieces are obsessed with that movie.
But yeah, it's one of the few. Logan is one of the few moments that I'm by the few, I think I mean the only moment that I'm kind of grateful that X-Men and Wolverine weren't part of the MCU because I love what the MCU does. I love how they balance humor with everything, but I don't think they could have put out something like Logan. I think they would have tried to squeeze in too much of the trademark Marvel humor that just wouldn't have fit. And so I'm really glad that it happened when it did and the way that it was made.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, I think that's a very valid point. So actually, before I go away from that, so looking at this, so the biggest thing that I'm excited for is 2 weeks from now when I get to post up Middle Earth versus Star Wars. Because like I said, like as much as I love like the Jurassic franchise, and I'm not personally a big fan of Twilight, like I think that there's no way that those two things lose in the first round. So I think in the second round, Middle Earth and Star Wars are going head to head. And if that happens, like I'm very curious to see what gets the majority of the vote.
Oh,
Yeah.
You know, like I'm going to be looking real hard at Fulton County to see what, you know, if they swing it, you know, Maricopa. Be looking at the Maricopa votes and see what's happening there. I think that Star Wars is going to get a lot of the early vote in Maricopa, right? But there's so many votes coming in from Middle Earth, and the mail-in vote in Maricopa, is that going to be enough for Middle Earth to overtake?
The Lindbergh vote is key, Maui.
The Lindbergh vote is definitely key. I think that's going to be really important, and it's definitely going to Middle Earth. I guarantee it. But like those are two fantastic franchises, and I think that both have pluses and minuses. Like for me, like Star Wars probably means more to me emotionally than Middle Earth. But Star Wars has done me real dirty. I am not a big fan of the prequel series. If I'm divorcing the animated shows from them, the animated shows are what made me love the prequel era. And them on their own without that support system, it's kind of a pass for me. The sequel trilogy is all over the place. Whereas Middle Earth has like this perfect trilogy with Lord of the Rings. And then I think the Hobbit trilogy is stanky AF. So like I honestly still don't know which way I'm voting on that one. I'm thinking probably Star Wars right now, but it keeps changing. What do y'all
Well,
think?
I'm just going to vote for Jurassic Park so you don't have to make that choice.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. But what do y'all think between those two? I'm very curious to see what people think.
It's going to be really interesting because I think both have really dedicated fans too. And so I genuinely don't. My guess is that it's going to be Star Wars just because Star Wars is such a huge pop culture thing that even like if someone came in and wasn't super familiar with these franchises, if they decided to come in and do these polls, Star Wars is such a recognizable name that they'll see Middle Earth and maybe not know what that is, but Star Wars is recognizable to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that there are so many Middle Earth fans that are so dedicated that would really support it. And it could surprise us. Also, with the news that keeps coming out about like little details with the upcoming series that they're going to be doing.
Second Age, what's good?
It's sort of like the love for the fandom is starting to like really come out again, and so it really could surprise us, and Middle Earth could take it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's going to be a very interesting battle. I'm super excited for that. I can't wait to see that, and I'm going to post it in Middle Earth fan groups and in Star Wars fan groups, and I want to see what happens. I want to see who's
That'll
more
be
passionate.
interesting.
Yeah. But I think that it's all a moot point because I do think that overall, by the time the entire bracket is done, the MCU walks away with it all.
Yeah.
If I were a betting man, I'd agree with you.
Yeah. Like I can't think of any metric where MCU like fails next to any of those franchises. It's too consistently good. Everyone cares about something. Like the amount of emotion that Cap lifting Thor's hammer elicited from me, not just the first time, but also like the sixth time I watched that movie, like the tears of like hysterical joy. Like there's no way, there's no way in my mind that anything could take down the MCU. So
yeah, we should be much more interested in what's coming in second place.
Right. And I think it's whoever wins between Middle Earth and Star Wars is going to be going up against the MCU. I think that's what it is.
Yes.
So
watch us all be wrong and Fast and Furious take the whole thing.
Yeah, you post it to one really dedicated Fast and Furious group and they're like
family and Korean Jesus will take the day.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's it. That's just what it's gonna be.
I saw that happen in a ship war once on Tumblr many years ago. So
what was the war between?
Destiel, Damon and Elena from the Vampire Diaries. I want to say John Locke might have been on it, and Hook and
Lost
just came in and just ripped the rug out from under everyone else. And
wait, John Locke from Lost?
No, not John Locke. John and Sherlock.
Oh, I was like,
Character names.
I was very confused.
That would have been a really interesting twist, though.
He's too old to understand, Abby.
Oh my gosh, I'm not that. Actually, I am turning 40 next week, so thank you for that. How dare you? How dare you? But I'm excited. I like doing the brackets. I think we're going to continue to do those. We have some really fun ones coming up. Our next one, actually, I'll share it with you now.
I'm so excited.
It's going to be the best doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're really excited about that. It was tough to we had to fudge it a little bit to get it up to 16. So we have 1 through 13. We have the War Doctor, Ruth Doctor, and Peter Cushing, alternate second Doctor in that. So that's going to be a really fun one. I'm excited for that. And then the other day, Gavin and I put together an amazing bracket for best Star Wars character that has various quadrants. It's like light side Force users, dark side Force users, light side non-Force users, dark side non-Force users, and a bonus 8 droid bracket.
Oh,
fancy.
That one's
can I see these brackets?
we'll release one. I'll give you early access to it for sure. But
what I love about our droid bracket is we put up I don't even remember our 5 from episode 4, Little R5 against freaking General Grievous. We'll just see. We'll just see.
I love R5 so much. I think R5 takes it. That's what
We
I'm saying.
should do a horror franchise bracket.
Are you a horror fan?
Yeah.
R5. I didn't know you were a horror fan. What's your favorite horror film?
Oof.
Oh, that's just opening up a whole can there.
Yeah,
Well,
that's a tough one.
I can't really get into horror like I used to. The first thing that's like excited me in like the horror world was A Quiet Place. I thought that was very inventive. But I've had a really hard time connecting, and I don't really consider Get Out to be horror. But I really liked that. I know a lot of people really, do kind of put that in that category, but like, yeah, those
Yeah,
would be
I think
mine.
that one could fit more into a thriller category than horror.
Yeah.
Us was definitely more horror.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you a little taste of the Star Wars one. I'll give you just a taste. I'll give you one person from each category.
Ooh.
All right, Jedi. I can confirm that. Which one? Which should I give him?
Kanan? Kanan.
Kanan is on the Jedi bracket.
That's a vote for me.
That's a good one.
We went for goats. We went for goats
We
only.
went for the goats.
Hell yeah.
For Sith, I can tell you that I'll give you a fun one here. The Saz Ventress is on the Sith side.
Nice.
Ooh.
Under Scum, which is the rebel, like good-ish, people that aren't Force users.
Mhm.
I can tell you that. I'll give you somebody that's on the bubble that may or may not make it in. Bo-Katan is being considered to be on that list.
Ooh.
And then under Imperial, I can tell you that Grand Moff Tarkin is on that list. So it's a little taste, just a little taste. Just a little taste.
Spicy. No,
It's very
not a lot of not a lot of legends in there, just canon stuff mostly. But
Do we have any? I don't think we have any legends, do we?
I don't think we did any
I
legends.
don't think we
Otherwise, that would make our job a lot harder.
Yeah. If I put Mara Jade up on that bad boy, come on now.
Oh, she's from
We stand to Mara Jade for sure. Like I'm still waiting. Like, I guess it's probably not going to happen at this point because
With how Luke's going, yeah.
yeah. But I love Mara Jade so much. Donnie, have you ever read the Timothy Zahn Heir to the Empire trilogy?
I'm sure my husband has though.
It is amazing, and if you like Grand Admiral Thrawn in Rebels, that's where he's from.
Oh.
Yeah, he existed in back in the old extended the Legends canon, and he's just as dope as he is in Rebels.
I need to check that out then. Thanks.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
$7.99 at Barnes and Noble.
I already know where I'm going now.
Use discount code Gavin, get 10%.
Yeah.
So there we go. So I think that's our show. I think we hit everything that I wanted to hit for today. Tune in next week. We'll have another great show for you all, and we'll have updates on the brackets, and we'll talk about everything that's happening in the geek world. And you know what? Send me the playlist. Put me a playlist together. I'm gonna listen to it this week. Let's do K-pop next week. I'm excited to dive into that world. So. For sure. Thank you everybody for being on and talking all the nerd stuffs with me. I'd love to have you all back in the very near future. Steph and I are here every week, but we'd love to have you all back many times. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of your week. Keep it dope. Peace.
Bye.